So as we kick things off for our main session here for our February 2025 Civic Health Meetup, and we do this monthly, um, first Tuesday of every month, I do just want to share that the Civic Health of Wisconsin initiative is who is hosting this meetup. I'm going to place our website URL in the chat. And there you can find out more about what we're up to, submit information about civic health initiatives you might be aware of in your communities, as well as find a Civic Health of Wisconsin events calendar that is an editable document that you can link to there if you have events coming up in your communities or in your work that you'd like to share with the broad Civic Health of Wisconsin network. Again, it's a nonpartisan network of folks doing work from local to statewide, and sometimes even national and international groups join us here in Wisconsin. And we really get a lot out of the variety of efforts and voices and perspectives that we bring to these meetups. So with no further ado, I'll just say one more time, thank you so much for joining us and for dedicating an hour of your busy week to learning about civic health together. And I'm going to turn it over to Libby Falck, our featured presenter for today, who's going to share with us from her professional and personal perspective and expertise about civics education platforms and tools and ways of learning about civics outside of traditional classrooms. So Libby, thanks so much for being here today, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hello. Thanks for having me. I actually do have a lot of K-12 stuff we'll talk about today too, but I'd love to spend the discussion focusing in a little bit on outside of schools because it's so important. So I know quite a few of you. My name's Libby. I live in Beaver Dam and I have a 2-month-old baby. So I am exhausted, but it's nice to not be covered in spit up right now and to be with you. Um, my background for the last 7 or so years has been studying and building civic education resources. So that includes the last 4 years I was at iCivics, which is a national nonprofit founded by Sandra Day O'Connor that creates hundreds of all types of resources that can be used for free. And then I'm in transition right now. 2 weeks ago was my last week there, and I'm now going to be focused on building more Wisconsin focused, particularly local government resources. So we'll talk about all that. But what I really wanted to do is, I know last month, I wish I could have been here. I kind of see this as a follow-on part two. So first of all, if you can, give me a virtual or physical hands up if you were here last month, just so I get a sense of. All right. So I've also been a part of the Wisconsin Civic Learning Coalition for the last year or so, and such important work in order to make sure that we're getting more time for civics in our schools. But there's so much need. And the reason I started doing this work is, civic engagement, I think can be really hard to buy into if you don't understand how our systems work or why your actions might make a difference. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to really quickly today take you through a whole host of incredible resources that we do have, mostly for free, for teaching civics. And the bulk of these are for K-12. We'll talk a little bit about things that can be used. Anything could be used in other environments, but specifically designed for K-12. And then we'll have a conversation just kind of about what does this raise for you? What gaps do you observe in this ecosystem? And hopefully we'll also have time to talk a little bit about what this group might be able to do to help step in there. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'm going to very quickly start. All of the links that I'm going to take you through today are in the notes document that was just shared in the chat. So don't feel like you have to be screenshotting everything or anything like that. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just talk us through some of the incredible things that are out there today. And if some of this will probably be a replica from last week, or last month, so sorry about that, but there's a lot of good stuff. So can everyone see my screen here? All righty. So the first thing I'm going to start with, just because I'm most familiar with iCivics resources, is iCivics. Founded in 2009. They've got all kinds of stuff that they're best known for is games. There's a suite of about 20 different games now that are all standards aligned and can be used to teach a variety of different topics, ranging from county government, which kind of has you play the role of a little person who you're directing people to the right department to learn about the different roles of departments, to um, more history games they've started to do recently. Some of our most popular games are Argument Wars. Win the White House is a simulation of running a presidential campaign. Everything is nonpartisan, of course. Everything is free and can be played on a browser. So we've definitely seen these get tons of traction in classrooms, but also after school programs and other places where you might want to just play a 30 or 45-minute game uh, to introduce some of these concepts. iCivics also has recently started to do elementary resources. So Private Eye History Detectives is a curriculum for K through 5. It is all inquiry based. These are the little main characters of Private Eye, and basically each series of mysteries, there's usually 3 to 4 mysteries in a unit, will take you through a number of questions to investigate a particular topic. And this is all Google Slides based. So there's a narrated Google slide, and that takes the teacher step by step through how to do this, along with worksheets and other companion activities. One thing iCivics really tries to do is make these things pretty grab and go, especially for elementary. You know, teaching some of these topics might be pretty new to a teacher. So we try to provide as much background as we can. And you'll see me slipping into the we there because I'm still not used to not being part of the iCivics team. Um, Next, I definitely want to mention the iCivics lesson plan library. There's over 500 lesson plans here, more than anyone could ever fit into the allotted time that we have for civics classrooms. These are middle school and high school, and generally they're sort of worksheet based, but there's always a big focus on classroom discussion and different group activities as well. Again, everything that is provided here is free. And then we have videos. So video series, many different kinds. One of the most recent video series that iCivics did was this series called Well Versed with Nickelodeon, which was kind of pitched as like the modern Schoolhouse Rock. This is for littler kids, ages 2 to 11. And there's just a series of very, very short animated videos that introduce different topics around government. This is one of our more popular series, but we also have many other videos. Untold Stories features different civil rights heroes. We've got very, very robust video series on the Constitution. It's 35 videos available in English and Spanish. A lot of these resources are also available in Spanish, but certainly not all. It is a constant funding goal to make that happen. And then the last resource from iCivics that I'll touch on here is a new simulation product that was developed in partnership with a group called VoxPop. And these are basically multiplayer experiences where students will go through and they'll play roles of different Supreme Court cases. They're fictional Supreme Court cases, but they're based on real world events. And basically the teacher can facilitate the whole experience from the web browser. The students log in from their individual devices and they get assigned to a particular role, whether that's somebody arguing the case or a member of the Supreme Court, and they get introduced to different information, and then they can create their arguments and ultimately vote. So this one's relatively new. This was released last year. So there's 2 currently, and they're continuing to build out more. So those are some iCivics resources. Again, iCivics focused on K-12. Like many of the things I'm going to tell you about today, at the end here, I will get to a few things that go beyond K-12. Hopefully, the folks in this group are also familiar with Retro Report. So Retro Report is an incredible library of videos that cover all different types of topics. So this is, of course, filtered down to our civics and government topic here. Uh, Great resource for teachers if you want, a quick video to cover something, and many of them also include lesson plans. Civic Online Reasoning. Who's heard of this resource? This one I really like. This was created by it was called SHEG, and now they're DIG. They used to be affiliated with Stanford, but it's the Digital Inquiry Group. Civic Online Reasoning is an incredible series of resources really focused on media literacy and specifically this idea of lateral reading. So this department at Stanford had really studied what makes a good fact checker, what makes somebody good at understanding what's true and what's not. And they compared that to what like Stanford undergrads do and found that most of these kids have no idea how to do these sort of tasks and came up with a series of tactics like lateral reading, which is just what's the first thing you do when you open up a resource? Well, let's open up some other non-affiliated pages to see what can back up and what we can learn about the background of this resource. So they studied how professional fact checkers look at information and then built out this incredible library of resources. It includes lesson plans, it includes videos, and it includes teacher training modules as well. So it sounds like this is new to many of you. Definitely something I recommend. Super strong curriculum. iCivics is also working with this group on a new series of videos. I'm not sure when that'll be launched, but I imagine it'll be sometime this year. Next, we've got the National Constitution Center, partnered with Khan Academy to create a course. So I'm not very familiar with this one, but definitely wanted to mention it. There is just so much content out there. And this is the Constitution 101 series. Then some of you should be quite familiar with this, the We the People competition. This is not one I've been personally involved with. I know some of you probably have, so let me know if you want to add anything. Erin, would you like to do an intro on this one? No? Okay. Well, I'll ask Erin if you've got
Not on We
questions
the
on this.
People. I do
Oh, okay.
Project Citizen.
Oh, okay. That one's next on my list. So We the People annual competition, really great for kids who, wait, no, We the People is the curriculum. And Project Citizen is the competition. No, now I'm mixing them up. Anyway,
No,
they're
they're two different.
two different competitions.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. Yes. So We the People is an annual competition. They basically provide teachers with a whole bunch of different resources to introduce key topics, and then they have an annual competition each year. As you can tell, I'm not as familiar with this one. I've known many teachers who've done it and just rave about it. So if you want to check that out, you should. Now, Erin, will you jump in on Project Citizen for me?
Sure. It's a curriculum that teaches kids to look at their problems in their area and then go through with public policy to solve that problem.
Awesome. Again, all of these links are going to be in our notes document. So if you want to dive deeper on any of these. The next one here, Facing History and Ourselves, a really incredible organization. And they do have, I think most people know them as a more history-focused organization, but they do have civics resources. And they just redid their site, so everything is a lot easier to discover and find now. I'm not sure exactly how many resources they have, but there's a lot of good stuff. Different lesson plans, different toolkits. Many years ago, I worked with them to do some workshops around civic technology, which was really cool. So I just love all the people I've met from this organization, and I know they also offer really robust resources. Moving along. All right. Civics 101. This is a series actually from Nebraska Public Media. Less familiar with this one, but I think, any nice Civics 101 videos can be useful in the classroom and beyond. So wanted to give it a mention. Hopefully, if you were here last month, you heard about the legislative semester, which is a Wisconsin focused project so far, started here. And our own Kate Ullman has started this. I'm not sure how many classrooms it's in now. 17 schools have participated, but it seems to be growing really quickly. So that's another incredible resource. I believe it requires quite a bit of time in the classroom to use. So one thing you'll notice is a lot of the resources I've gone over so far are meant to be pretty quick. One lesson down to maybe 3 minutes. And that is largely because, we have limited time to teach civics. So programs like legislative semester can go a lot deeper, but I think they can also be a bit harder to implement. Probably same could be said for Project Citizen or We the People. But when you can do it, really, really powerful. This civics collection from WGBH Boston is getting a lot of traction these days. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Let me give you a better view of this. They have a whole series of, I think it's a lot of videos, but also different types of interactive modules focused on civics and democracy. It's from Boston, but it can be used anywhere. It's national focused. And they have a variety of videos and then also H5P interactive tools that can be assigned using Google Classroom or other LMSs. So definitely something to look at more. A lot of good stuff here. Next, we've got the Democratic Knowledge Project. So this is a project out of Harvard, building out an 8th grade civic engagement curriculum. So once again, one of those experiences that's really meant to be an entire semester, really deep engagement. And they have released all of these materials for free. You just have to create an account to get into their portal. And then this is the overview of the different units they have. Again, this is another resource that's really focused on inquiry, which is a super powerful model for teaching history and civics in classrooms. So another really good one here. And then finally, for this section, I have, I guess, an honorable mention. I just love this series. If you're familiar with Wisconsin biographies from PBS Wisconsin, not necessarily civics. A few of these could probably cross into civics, but just excellent short videos about famous and important people throughout Wisconsin history and the things that they have done. So I always mention this. Some of them definitely do have very strong crossovers into a civics lesson if you can make that connection. There's also Crash Course. So this is a pretty popular series on YouTube. Lots of different intro videos to government, civics. This probably starts to get into things that might be a little more accessible beyond the classroom, but I think primarily is used in the classroom. Just another great video series. All right, we're getting to the end of our K-12 things, believe it or not. And this is barely scratching the surface, I will fully admit. Generation Citizen here is a really, really incredible, again, deeper dive experience into doing a whole problem solving curriculum, coming up with a solution, which could be a policy solution. They have been running this program for, I think, 10 or 15 years now, and they've got great resources, lesson plans, toolkits, educator materials. I will say with this one, unfortunately, it has been branded as somewhat of a action civics curriculum, which can be a trigger in some communities. If you are encouraging students to directly reach out to any, elected members, anything like that, this one has been kind of become known as that type of curriculum. So I haven't seen it used in a lot of non-blue places. But it is definitely designed to be nonpartisan, and I think it's an incredible resource. And then finally, I wanted to mention tribal government. So we don't have a lot of resources. iCivics does have a couple of lesson plans, very, very basics on native sovereignty. Wisconsin has, was only able to find this one really basic lesson plan that's just like, what are the different tribes and where are their seats of government? So this is, I would say, to get into our conversation, potentially a gap, but there is a little bit out there. WisconsinFirstNations.org has a lot of really incredible education resources, but not too much specifically on civics or government. So that is my K-12 overview. The next few things I'm going to show you are a little bit more for the adult and maybe family side of things. Of course, the first thing we'll get into is podcasts. So many podcasts, but there's a couple that really stand out on the top. Civics 101. This is a really interesting one. I listen to it occasionally. They're, usually around 30-minute episodes, and they'll explain from a civics perspective what's going on in the news. So this one's pretty neat. I would definitely say oriented toward adults, not something that you're going to use in classrooms as much. Similarly, from the Center of Civic Education, we have 60-second civics. So this will give you really quick overviews of different civics topics, civics and history, but definitely with a civics orientation. This one I love. It's just really quick. I find sometimes, though, I have to listen to them like 3 times because it's a lot of information packed into 1 minute. But this can be a pretty cool thing. I could see it being a useful like starter for something that's focused on adults to dive in, listen, have a conversation about the topic, but definitely very digestible at only 60 seconds. Then we get to influencers and folks like Kristen Bray. Who here has seen anything from Kristen? A handful of folks. She is lovely and very entertaining. She moved back to Wisconsin a few years ago to start a project called As Goes Wisconsin. She actually was an actress and a comedian, and it shows. She will very quickly in an Instagram video or whatever platform you're on break down different civics topics, the news, and she is now with the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, which is super cool. She produces a lot of really interesting content there. She also, I believe, has a podcast or a radio show that's still going. I think she took a break when she had a kid, but I think it's back. So look up Kristen, give her a follow if you want to be, have a dose of amusement when possible with your news, which I think many of us can appreciate in times like this. The next thing I'll go into is online courses. So online courses for civics. I'm not sure how appealing these are to the general public, to be honest, but if you are a nerd like me and you're like, hey, I never really had a good civic education as a kid, maybe I want to brush up on that. There are a handful of things. This is from the Sandra Day O'Connor Institute. They offer a number of different micro lessons. I have not done these personally. I'm just aware of them. There's a couple of different platforms that offer similar things to this. So Center for Civic Education, We the People Open course. So this is, I believe, sort of like an online version of the We the People curriculum. Again, I suppose this is something that like a high school student could do, especially if they're homeschooling or something along those lines. But I would guess this is something that adults would be more successful at getting through without support. We also have a little bit more in Khan Academy. So I mentioned in a resource earlier, this is a general US government and civics course on Khan Academy. These are all the different sections you can go through. I haven't done but I'm actually thinking about starting it because I'm just very curious about what's in here, how it's set up, how it works. Anyone, you don't have to be a kid, can create a Khan Academy account and check this sort of thing out. So, if I'm choosing something, this is probably where I would start, just because it's got a pretty good user experience, and it's really easy to see what they're going to cover in each unit. And then finally, I will mention the project that I've been working on for the last few years, that I'm going to be focused on this year. Some of you are familiar with this. Forward Games is a platform that I built to run basically virtual scavenger hunts that help you learn about your local community, local civics, local nonprofits. So this is something that I've been trying to run on the side of a very, very demanding full-time job. And I now finally have the opportunity to dive in and see what can be built out of this in the next year. And what I'm aiming to do with this is really think about family play, adults, young adults. How do we just inject a little bit more fun into this learning wherever possible for those first steps? Like ultimately, when you get into the nitty-gritty of civics, it's really great to be part of a learning community and have, an educator walking you through every detail. But like that is just not feasible for everyone. So how can we help people at least understand how my city government works, what the basics are? Do I have a mayor or a city administrator, things along those lines? What is my city council made up of? And so that's what I've been aiming to do with Forward Games. So that concludes my quick overview of 10,000 approximately resources. And the reason I really wanted to go through this is I just wanted to underscore how much there truly is out there. Incredible organizations, brilliant educators for dozens of years have been building these things. And as you can see, a lot of it is focused on K-12. There are some things for adults and families. I don't want to lead too much here because what I'd like to do is stop talking for a couple of minutes and open it up to the group to hear what are your initial reactions to this list, and specifically, what gaps come to mind for you in this ecosystem.